After inheriting $1 billion and becoming the CEO of a company, my ex-girlfriend showed up in my office. She pulled my sleeve and cried heartbreakingly. Michael, you can't do this. You said you would love me forever. Just because you have money, can you stop loving me so quickly? You were the one who said you loved me first, now you don't want me anymore? I gave a tired smile. The person in this world who can least question whether I love you is you, Sophia. Have you forgotten, Sophia? I said word by word, you were the one who didn't want me first. The fun starts right away. If you like it, remember to click to subscribe. I was wearing a neat suit and for the first time in my life I felt so nervous that I was about to faint. The person I am going to marry is my childhood friend, Sophia. I have been with her for 21 years and now we can finally get married. The girl in front of me was wearing a pure white wedding dress and had a pair of bright eyes that looked like the sea of stars. The ring in her hand looked very dazzling under the sunlight. After graduation, I spent all my savings to buy her the most expensive diamond ring in the store. I want to give her all the best. The moment the ring touched her fingertips, I didn't expect that she would snatch the ring from me. She looked at me, and unlike her usual gentle demeanor, there was a look of contempt on her face that I had never seen before. I was stunned. She said, Michael, he's back. He's the one I've always loved. I don't need you anymore. As soon as the words fell, someone walked out of the crowd. I have never forgotten that face. His name is David. It was the white moonlight that died in Sophia's youth. At the wedding, David showed up, followed by a group of people, and disrupted my wedding. David walked up to me with slow steps and took the ring from Sophia. How can you afford such a shabby thing? No wonder Sophia doesn't want you anymore. Look at you. You are as cowardly as a pug. You picked up my discarded old shoes and wore them for 10 years. As soon as I finished speaking, I was furious. Why do you say that to her? Sophia, on the other hand, didn't care what he said. She put her arm around his, and the corners of her mouth curved in a mocking arc towards me. The ring was thrown lazily in a high parabola and landed somewhere unknown. He and Sophia interlocked their fingers and smiled at each other. Her beautiful eyebrows and eyes were curved like crescent moons, and I suddenly realized that she hadn't smiled at me for a long time. After they left, I searched for a long time before I found the ring. I looked at the ring dejectedly. It doesn't have to be like this, Sophia. I once said that I would rather see you happy than you being with me. If going with him will make you happy, then I will let you go. Is it worth wasting 21 years? I looked up and found my friend looking at me with disapproval. He tried to snatch the ring from my hand, but my throat choked and I quickly held the ring to my chest. After a long while, I finally answered, I asked for it. Bullshit, it's obvious that she forgot her promise to you. She swore to me those vows with great confidence, probably because she didn't forget them. But it was a lie from the beginning. Michael, believe me, I will never fall in love with anyone else again. Michael, when we get old, let's travel around the world and be the freest couple. It was the result of my years of self-torture that I was willing to be David's substitute in front of her for 10 years. He was thinking of Michael, but in his heart he was thinking of David. I actually know my position very well. I'm the spare tire. When the white moonlight ends, it is the spare tire's turn to come on stage. Coincidentally, Sophia's beloved love was taken away in a car accident 10 years ago. Everyone thinks that Sophia and I are each other's sweethearts. At best, I am just a stand-in. I don't look like him, and my voice is even less like his. It's just that she's lonely, that's why I'm here. From childhood to adulthood, I have loved her deeply, but I also know that she never loves me. Even if the person she loves hasn't appeared yet, she will keep me as a backup. But I was the one who rolled around with her when she was throwing a tantrum. It was me who was dragged by her to plant flowers and grass in the yard. With a bright and beautiful smile, she asked me when we were children whether I was willing to be with her forever. How could I be willing to do this all these years? She fell head over heels in love with that bad boy during her senior year of high school. David, who was a will-o'-the-wisp boy in my eyes, was a rebellious boy in her eyes. That year, David transferred to my class, and Sophia fell in love with him the first time she saw him. She always went out with him. I heard that David took her there to smoke, drink, and play cards. Every time I want to take her home, she always looks very impatient. Michael, if you stop me again, I won't talk to you for the rest of the week. She knows best how to manipulate me. After entering college, David unexpectedly got into the school I was attending with a perfect score in the college entrance examination. With the powerful and wealthy behind the Willow W. Fire boy, even going to college with a score of 0 is no problem for him. At that time, every time Sophia came to the school to find me, she used me as a cover to go find him. When she took the college entrance exam, she chose a technical college next to our school. Everyone would say that she even chose a school close to mine. Only I know that she is using me as a shield to attack another person. She had mastered the art of playing hard to get with her backup guy. He pestered me a little more, but only for David. She wanted me to help her explore David's preferences and give her ideas on how to please David. I couldn't help but ask her, "Didn't you say you were testing my feelings? Didn't you say that if you could see my true heart then?" She evaded the question. "No one said I can't like someone while I'm testing you. Michael, aren't you blackmailing me?" At that time, I probably understood that I would definitely be the loser. Therefore, when she received the news that David had died in a car accident, she cried bitterly the day before. When she said she could be with me the next day, I was actually in a daze, wishing she could really fall in love with someone else so quickly. This way, maybe when she says she loves me, she isn't lying. The wedding didn't take place, and my relatives and friends looked at me with a rather strange look. I couldn't stand that sympathetic look and ran away. I received a call on the way, and the phone note showed the name was Christopher. After the call was connected, the man on the other end had a hoarse voice. He asked me, "Have you thought about it? I am not inviting you to cooperate, but I am informing you that you must cooperate with me." I still didn't agree, nor did I refuse. The other side continued, "You'd better not continue to wear down my patience. This cooperation will only benefit you and will not cause any harm." I laughed. "It's a perfect benefit to you, right? You've just made me your target." The man on the other side also laughed and said, "I didn't expect you to see through me, but you can't refuse me. From what I heard, your fiancé just won the Best Newcomer award. So, if I post this email publicly on the internet, it will probably cause quite a stir." As soon as I finished speaking, I received an email. I clicked on it and saw several videos and audio recordings. The video shows Sophia and David entering a hotel together, spanning a period of 5 years. In the 5th year we were together, or perhaps even earlier, she had already started hanging out with her youthful lover. I clicked on a random recording and heard the voices of Sophia and David mixed with the sound of flesh colliding. I clenched my fists and listened to my lover having fun with another man. The recording connects with my past memories. It turned out that day was Sophia's birthday, and I had appendicitis during that period. Sophia said she felt lonely on her birthday, so I postponed my hospital stay and went to see her, despite the severe pain. When I arrived, she said she had a new work assignment. I looked at the huge birthday cake and felt sorry that I couldn't let her blow out the birthday candles or make a wish. But I didn't expect that the so-called new job was to have sex with him. In the recording, David asked her, "He specially came to you to celebrate his birthday today. I heard that he is sick. Why don't you go and see him?" "There's no need. He's pretending to be in pain. The fact that he came to me means he's not in any pain at all." She smiled calmly and continued, "Okay, I've tricked him into giving you what you want. You'd better try harder." Then, the heavy breathing became heavier. I was about to say, "Then it's up to you, just go public." The other side said first, "Look up and look ahead." I followed the words, looked up, and saw Sophia standing in front of me. She stood in the cold wind, and my subconscious impulse was that I was afraid she would catch a cold, so I just wanted to hold her in my arms. "Is this you? Are you going to expose me? Michael, when did you follow me? You put a recorder on me, what do you think I am? You want to judge me from the moral high ground?" Sophia came towards me angrily, and before I could react, she slapped me. I covered my burning cheeks and felt like arguing with her, so I didn't argue and said, "Didn't you choose to cheat on your partner?" Sophia slapped me again. "What do you mean by cheating? When David died, didn't you take advantage of the situation to get together with me? Why are you pretending to be a loving man? You took advantage of David. What's wrong with me going back to him now?" Back then, it was Sophia who begged me not to leave. Unexpectedly, I now have the opportunity to take advantage of the situation. I smiled bitterly. She can go back to him anytime, but do I deserve to be kept in the dark for 5 years? I looked at her twisted and hideous face of hatred. She seemed to really think that it was me who prevented her from being with Bai Guang. After a while, I suddenly felt sad, but I couldn't help laughing. Even an outsider knows that my weakness is Sophia. Even if I am betrayed, even if I am abandoned at the wedding, even if I am slandered, even if I am slapped hard in the face. The moment I saw her, I couldn't help but lean towards her in my heart. This has become a habit ingrained in me and I can't change it. I feel sad. The sadder I am, the more I want to laugh. The more I laugh, the crazier I become, attracting the attention of passers-by. Sophia looked a little scared of me. What are you crazy about, Michael? Are you going to destroy me? You don't appreciate the affection we've had for so many years. Are you going to destroy me just because I'm pursuing love? I said, Sophia, go ahead. I'll take care of the recordings and videos. Do you think I will believe you? How do I know if you're lying to me? I looked into her eyes seriously, probably filled with heartbreak. After our glances, she quickly looked away. I asked her, Sophia, have I ever lied to you in all these years? Christopher is David's older brother. We quickly agreed on a cooperation. He would not release the video recording, and I would act according to his instructions. When I was young, Christopher and I actually met several times. David started picking on me when I was a junior. I was so angry that I couldn't stand it anymore after he stopped me on the playground again. Let's play. Don't you want to play with me? There are a lot of people over there who can't wait to play with me. He was shooting basketball, wearing a non-mainstream vest with a giant skull on it. Pointing casually at a large group of people in the distance. Don't bother me. If you want to play with them, play with them. I even suspected that he might be a guy. However, I heard that he had countless girlfriends in his previous school. Only 1 month after joining the company, he had 7 or 8 girlfriends at the same time. Sophia couldn't help herself. She told me, he has 7 or 8 girlfriends. Doesn't that prove that he is very charming? She used me as a way to get in touch with him. Who knew that later on, even rumors began to spread. There were even rumors that she was pregnant. There was a photo on the campus forum, showing her getting into my car and then us going into the hotel. But that was just Sophia wanting to take a picture of David. That day she was thinking of finding a high place where she could overlook the basketball court where David was. Record his high-spirited look at that moment. After the rumor spread, many people started talking about her dirty deeds behind her back. What I saw that day was that Sophia hugged David and cried, saying that she had done nothing wrong and asked him not to disbelieve her or think she was dirty. On the campus forum, I followed the IP address and found the hacker who started the rumor. Unexpectedly, that person was David. When we found David, he was kissing a hot girl in hot pants in an alley. I walked over and pulled his hair back. Who the fuck are you? I'm fucking you. Let go. I'm fucking you. I kicked him in the stomach, my face looking gloomy. You made up the rumor, and you still have the nerve to hug her and comfort her? His face turned pale, and when he tried to fight back, I kicked him again. I'm asking you a fucking question. He was kicked all over the place, leaning against the crooked tree at the entrance of the alley, unable to straighten his back. She rushed up to me on her own accord. She was so dirty, but I didn't dislike her. Who are you calling dirty? Don't you know who spread the rumor? I continued to beat him, but he smiled, his teeth were covered in blood. No wonder Dad doesn't want you. He hadn't finished speaking, or should I say I hadn't finished listening, because my head was hit hard by something and there was a loud roar. When I turned around, I saw Sophia standing there with red eyes. Her big eyes fell to the ground and she cried breathlessly. What I fear most is that she would cry. I would not have time to take care of my own injuries, but instead my heart would be in a knot worrying about her. I was stunned for a moment, and the next moment I realized that what she was holding in her hand was the school bag I bought for her. There was a brick in the bag and the outside of the bag was covered in blood. It turned out that Sophia put the brick in her bag and hit me on the head with it. As my mind buzzed, I could only vaguely make out the words she opened her mouth to say, I'm sorry. I smiled, thinking she was just too scared and didn't mean it, so I opened my arms and said it was okay. She passed me and walked straight towards David. The moment the roar ended, I heard her voice coming from behind me. Trembling and fragmented. She said to David, I'm sorry, David, I should have stopped him. I'm here to save you. I'll take you to the hospital. You can hate him, but don't hate me, okay? He was taken to the hospital by Sophia, and I was taken to another hospital by a passerby. The doctor said, it's nerve compression. Your right ear is almost going to be deaf, but your left ear is saved. Luckily he was brought here in time. His head was badly injured. If he had been brought here a little later, he would have died. He pointed at the cool girl in motorcycle clothes next to him and said, thank her. I tried to stand up, but she pushed me back. Hey, don't get up, and stop moving around. My throat was dry and I hadn't even finished saying thank you in a hoarse voice when she simply and roughly stuffed water into my mouth. The girl who hit you with a brick ran away with a young man, but I remember their faces clearly. After you are discharged from the hospital, I will take you to the police station to report the case. We can find the perpetrator even if we dig deep into the ground. Don't. I said hurriedly, don't go, she's not. Before I could finish my sentence, she interrupted me, fuck, you're not going to say she didn't do it on purpose? She looked at me in bewilderment, what kind of clown? I was choked by the water and answered after a while, she is my sister. She seemed a little unconvinced, and said with a pout, she deserves a beating. As her brother, you should teach her a lesson. I was in the hospital for 3 days. Sophia didn't come to see me during these 3 days. When my mother saw me like this, she said she would call Sophia's mother to ask for advice. I didn't tell her that I couldn't keep my right ear anymore. I said to her, forget it, Mom. It's not necessary. My aunt found out that I was beaten and sent to the hospital from the gossip in the yard. The next day she came with bags of gifts, saying 3 words and bowing to apologize. The aunt looked very haggard. It seemed that she saw my anxiety, and she was startled and couldn't help crying. It turned out that Sophia had also been missing for 3 days. I dragged my injured head to see the doctor, who repeatedly warned me not to do anything stimulating after leaving the hospital. By the evening, my aunt advised me to go back and have a rest. In the middle of the night it occurred to me that there was a place where Sophia might very well be. David's house. His home is not in the city, but in a forest area. The old man and his family likes quietness. I hurriedly took a taxi there in the middle of the night. I got lost in the woods and encountered a snake that almost killed me. Later, I was bitten by mosquitoes of all sizes until my body was covered with blisters at dawn. I turned over and went into the garden. After the trip, I was so disheveled and looked like a beggar that I couldn't take care of myself anymore. I'm just worried that something might happen to Sophia. When we arrived at the villa, I saw David kneeling in front of the door with his upper body naked. Next to him was a young man holding a long thorn and scratching his back, leaving bloody marks. I was a little surprised to see another person standing next to David. That man was Christopher, the first time I met him. Sophia stood there as if she was being punished, tears as big as beans falling from her eyes. Christopher whipped more and more fiercely, as if he was losing his temper. I jumped out quickly. When she saw me, she quickly hugged my arms, as if she had a support, and her body straightened a little. Christopher stopped beating me and looked at me, the little girl's friend. I protected Sophia behind me, and he smiled at her contemptuously and said, "Why don't you ask yourself what happened in the past 2 days?" I was startled, and then I heard him speak again. "It's better to take her to the hospital for a checkup. The 2 of you are quite interesting and like to seek excitement. You want to keep it from me, but you also want me to not find out. I'm not stupid." The news hit me like a bolt of lightning. I turned around and asked, "You've been with him for 3 days?" She bit her lip and nodded slightly. I asked again, "Did you wear it?" Blood oozed from under her lip. She shook her head and looked up, tears gathering in her eyes. "Michael, please don't tell my mom. She will beat me to death. Please." I suddenly felt difficulty breathing, as if my throat was being strangled. When I was on the verge of death in the hospital, she hit me on the head with a brick without any mercy. Doesn't she feel any guilt at all? The doctor said I can't be stimulated, and he wasn't exaggerating. My head was aching like a drill at that time, but I was glad that I fainted. Even though she took medicine, she still won the prize in the end. David disappeared as if he had evaporated from the face of the earth. I accompanied her to check it out, quietly. On the day of the operation, the man also came to accompany me. After Sophia finished the operation, she learned that Christopher was there too and insisted on asking him to come over. As she tugged at the hem of Christopher's shirt, she hesitated several times to speak. Christopher understood what I meant. He went to study abroad. "I will compensate you with the money." Sophia couldn't stop crying. "I don't want money, can you please let him come back?" Christopher shook his head. I fed her porridge and asked Sophia, "Do you really like it that much?" She cried so hard that her words broke down. "I like you so much, I like you so much, my heart is hollowed out." She has only one heart, but in fact I have already known that that part of her heart is empty. I smiled awkwardly and tucked her messy hair behind her ears. She suddenly had a premonition and hugged me tightly. "Please don't leave, okay?" I said, "I can forgive you for hitting me on the head. You said you were willing to let him spread rumors about you. That's my fault. I was indeed meddling in other people's business. You've seen all the problems you had later, and I handled them pretty well for you. Sophia." I called her name and she quickly responded. "I gave you a lot of things, and you threw them all away." She was startled. "How do you know?" "I told you many times that I liked you, but you ignored me, right?" She murmured, "Michael. You enjoy the care I give you, but I am a human being, and humans get tired too. She panicked and asked hurriedly, "Don't you want me anymore? Don't you all want me anymore? Don't." I said, "No, you didn't want me first." Yes, she was the one who didn't want me first. At this point, I was clearly planning to let her go, and let myself go. But because I was soft-hearted again, it took nearly another 10 years. The year when David disappeared without a trace, I concealed the truth for her from her mother, but I never slacked off in my studies. I successfully applied to study abroad. On the contrary, Sophia became depressed because of David's disappearance. Eventually, she was dropped out of college. As I was leaving with my luggage, she asked me, "I'm going to take the college entrance exam again. Can you accompany me to repeat the year?" I didn't say anything. She was about to cry, and then said, "Michael, from childhood to adulthood, haven't you always been with me no matter what I do?" I asked her, "Sophia, why do you want me to stay?" This time she was silent and couldn't utter a word for a long time. When she was about to board the plane, she suddenly mentioned her childhood. She said to me, "Please stay, I beg you." I still didn't agree. Our lives were supposed to be like this, no longer intersecting, drifting further and further apart. In my second year of studying in the UK, unexpectedly, Sophia also came. She brought me the news of David's death and told me that after these years, she finally saw herself clearly. "Michael, I realize that I have always loved you." I was confused, but I didn't dare to acknowledge her words. In a foreign country, I couldn't avoid suspicion as fast as she caught up. Later, on my birthday, she prepared a grand confession for me. Sophia burst into tears and said, "When I was young, there was a man who loved me very much. Out of comparison and vanity, I never gave him an answer. I was also reluctant to let him leave me. I took advantage of the love he gave me and became arrogant. So I relied on him for everything and depended on him for everything. So, I lost him in the end." She paused, and her bright eyes seemed to be covered with mist, as if a moist drizzle was falling. "It took me a long time to find you. Will you let me stay with you forever?" It turns out that at a certain moment in the movie, time was infinitely stretched and the silence around was not a bluff. At that moment, the scene replayed itself in my mind. Memories of spending more than a decade with her came flooding back. My love, which has been buried for so long, finally sees the light of day. A prodigal son who returns is worth more than gold. She just fell in love with the wrong person when she was young, and she didn't commit any huge mistake. I hugged her, snuggled up to her ear, and whispered the word "okay." From then on, I unknowingly served as a substitute and spent all my 10 years in her hands. The most chilling words I have ever heard came that evening when she was sitting in the setting sun, looking into the distance. She said wistfully to the other end of the phone, "He is so unlike himself, but now that I am with him, he finally looks a little like him." I don't want to admit that I'm being treated as a substitute. I can't win against the dead, so I won't fight with the dead. The living have to look forward. I would like to use fireworks to help her get over the pain of losing her childhood lover. So, I deserve to lose 10 years of my life for having such extravagant dreams. On the morning that Sophia ran away from her marriage, a lawyer called me and said he wanted to give me a share of the inheritance. The truth is too outrageous. My mother told me this. "You are definitely not my biological child." My mother, oh no, it should be my adoptive mother, was cracking melon seeds, completely ignoring the fact that I was so surprised that my jaw almost dropped. "Your own mother told me that if you don't find it, you will live in confusion for the rest of your life. If you really find out, I won't hide it from you. I'm really not my biological child?" I couldn't believe it. My adoptive mother handed me a handful of melon seeds, indicating that this was a long story, but in short, my mother was Michael's father's first love, and she ran away with the baby. Later, my mother threatened with her own life to prevent the rich from interfering in our lives. My mother later fell ill and died, and I was entrusted to my current mother. The rich man agreed, but he has never appeared in my life since I grew up. Before he died, he wanted to leave a strong mark in my life. After consolidating that huge fortune, he gave me almost 40%. Not only did my father appear out of nowhere, but I also had an older brother and a younger brother who suddenly showed up out of nowhere. The weird thing is that they are Christopher and David, with whom I have a close relationship. Let's go back to the time when David cursed me and he picked on me when he had nothing better to do. No wonder Dad doesn't want you. It turns out that everything has a traceable origin. The last 3 words I didn't hear were illegitimate child. The so-called cooperation was actually proposed to me unilaterally by Christopher. In terms of inheritance distribution, I got 40%, Christopher and David each got less, 30%. He, Christopher, was going to give me the 30. When I have those 30, I can legitimately become the CEO of the group. This unexpected wealth made some old men at the shareholders' meeting seem unconvinced. But with Christopher's support, no matter how dissatisfied they had to keep it to themselves and look at me with contempt. The day after Sophia ran away from her marriage, I took over as CEO. David took her with him and arranged for Sophia to work in our company's film and television department. He said he wanted to bring her to meet the boss. The position was originally Christopher's. But now it's mine. When I saw it, I was sitting in that position. David and Sophia were both stunned. They were caught off guard and the smiles on their faces froze. "Where's my brother? Where's my brother?" he yelled at me. I laughed and said, "Aren't you the first one to know that I am also your brothers? Why, you won't admit it just because I'm sitting here. Who the hell do you think you are to sit in this position?" David was furious and urgently convened a general shareholders meeting. "But my succession is reasonable, legal and reasonable." It's not just him, most of the old men present were so angry that they could do nothing about it. They could only listen to the lawyer reading out the old man's will and Christopher's share transfer contract again, and declared, "In summary, your company's CEO should be Mr. Michael. You may raise any objections, but all objections will be treated as invalid proposals. A business war against me has begun. I am a target, and everyone wants to find my fault and bring me down." That evening, Sophia knocked on my office door. It was time to get off work, and most of the company employees had left. As soon as I opened the door, someone rushed in. She was wearing a hot tight skirt, had bright red lips, and the corners of her eyes were red from crying. As soon as she looked into my eyes, she came up to me and wanted to kiss me. Michael. I didn't have time to dodge, and the moment our lips touched, I used my strength to push her away. I just gave her a light push and she fell down the next second. She screamed, fell to the ground and couldn't get up, and her eyes were immediately covered with tears. She said to me, "Michael, I was wrong, I apologize." She has a typical delicate appearance and an extraordinary temperament. Even with heavy makeup on, she still maintains a fresh look. When she cries, people will feel like they have let her down so much that they want to pick the stars in the sky and give them to her. I looked at her, and I felt like a huge rock was pressing on my heart. A long time ago, I saw her as the moon in the sky. But now, I don't want to pick the moon anymore. She cried more and more heartbreakingly. "Michael, you can't do this. You said you would love me forever. Just because you have money, can you stop loving me so quickly? You were the one who said you loved me first, now you don't want me anymore?" I gave a tired smile. "The person in this world who can least question whether I love you is you, Sophia. Have you forgotten, Sophia? I said word by word, you were the one who didn't want me first. Hey, what are you thinking about? You're so absent-minded." This sentence brought my thoughts back from my memories. I looked up and saw my new secretary. Being a CEO these days keeps me pretty busy. The motorcycle girl whom I said goodbye to so hastily back then, I now know her name is Ava. Without her cool motorcycle outfit, she looks a little too cute. She does things in a swift and decisive manner, which is in line with her style as a CBD elite. She said she had really been a boss. How can you be willing to be a secretary after being a boss? Ava, why, you've never seen a broke and lonely young lady? I handed the company over to my brother, and he bankrupted me. At the end of the workday, she came back and said to me, "There is a girl in the lobby on the first floor of the company who refuses to leave. Isn't she the one who hit you with a brick and deafened you?" These days, Sophia comes to my place from time to time after get off work. Ava said, "I still remember you lied to me. You lied to me that she was your sister. And now they're shouting your name at the door, saying they love you to the bone and can't live without you." When I heard the word love, I smiled. Ava asked me, "Boss, do you want to handle this yourself, or should I do it for you?" I said, "Forget it, let's wait for her to leave on her own." She held her forehead with her hand. "Boss, how did you become a CEO with your level? Your work performance gives me the feeling that the company will go bankrupt tomorrow. If I don't deal with her, what will happen to the company's public opinion?" I told Ava to handle it. Later, one day, I asked Ava, "What did you say to Sophia that day that made her leave without saying a word?" At that time, she went downstairs, pulled Sophia up, they chatted for a while, and then she left. Ava said, "Don't underestimate the professionalism of a secretary. I don't know what big order David has completed, so he is coming to my office in a triumphant manner. He wanted to give me a warning, so before that, I had to go through the process of reporting and registering in my secretary's office. Ava, that guy was very arrogant, so I made the application process long and tedious, and he ended up leaving in anger, cursing. I can imagine David's expression. She said to me, "You have to hold on from now on. If you hold on, we will succeed." I nodded. The old men in business wars are insidious and cunning. If Ava hadn't reminded me, I would have been almost eaten to pieces. She suddenly pulled my sleeve and asked, "Why is your shirt so tattered? How much did you pay for it?" I answered, "More than 300. Bullshit. Ava pulled my sleeve and pointed at me, saying, "I saw this one when there was a purchasing agent selling fake goods in my circle of friends. The price was in the early 20s. Well, she didn't even give me a shirt. For the sake of decency, Ava asked the boss to change the shirt. I didn't expect to meet David and Sophia there. She held his arm and they were as intimate as any ordinary couple in the world. I was just about to throw my old shirt into the trash. When he met my gaze, David sneered at me in a condescending manner. "Hey, isn't this the new grassroots boss? You don't work anymore, but come to shop during work hours?" I ignored him, but he just got defensive. Finally, I calmly said to him, "I am the boss. I can go to work if I want to, and I can leave if I don't want to. What about you?" I asked him, "Can the CFO leave his post at any time?" When I said this, his expression suddenly changed. I turned to Ava and said, "Please record this for me. The CFO is negligent in his duties." Ava quickly put on a professional team look. "Okay, boss." Sophia said nothing more, her fists clenched. Ava and I took a few steps and heard the sound of slapping behind us. I looked back and saw David raising his hands high and about to bring them down. He roared, "Are you a cheap bitch? You dare to pick up things that others don't want when I'm not paying attention and rummaging through the trash can? Throw them away." It turned out that Sophia was holding the shirt I had just thrown away. "It's mine, why can't I take it?" Snap. Another slap came down. I was about to walk over there, but Ava held my wrist and said, "I'll take care of it." Ava took down David in no time. Finally Ava brought Sophia to me. Ava said, "David saw her rummaging through the trash can and slapped her. Let's take her to the hospital." She cried loudly and wanted to hug me. "Michael, we." Before I could step back, my professional secretary pressed her shoulders. "Please respect yourself. The boss refuses any physical contact without his consent." I nodded indifferently. She was like a frosted eggplant, and hugged the shirt in her hands even tighter. We got in a car. I sat in the passenger seat, Ava was driving, and she sat in the back. Sophia said she wanted to go home, so Ava drove around in circles and ended up in a dark and damp alley. There is a garbage dump next to the alley, which emits a foul smell. Sophia said that her new home is at the end of the alley. She chuckled when she saw my incredulous expression. "You saw me and thought I was having a hard time after leaving you. You're happy, right?" I shook my head. She said, "Don't be hypocritical. You must be feeling smug." She suddenly broke out and cried bitterly in the back seat, which made people feel suffocated. She said, why do I have to live like this, all these years?" Ava asked me, "Should we take her to the hospital?" I was just about to nod, when the next moment, I saw a car light suddenly light up in the distance. It was almost a reckless speed, sprinting towards us. This is a narrow alley that doesn't give us any chance to turn. I heard a crazy whistle and a boom. I subconsciously turned sideways to protect the people around me. Turning my head, I also saw Ava rushing towards me. Someone hugged me tightly, with such strength that it seemed as if he was trying to rub me into his bones and blood. It's Ava. She is protecting me. Before she lost consciousness, she seemed to say something in my ear. But I am deaf in my right ear. I can't hear you. As someone who was at the center of the business war, I only participated in the beginning of the war. I stayed in the hospital for 3 years and was the last one to wake up among the 4 of us. After waking up, I found out that Christopher transferred all the shares to me in order to make me do something bad. I chose you as CEO just to make you fail miserably, but I didn't expect you and your secretary to almost bring me disaster. Luckily you were in the hospital after the car accident. I don't think what he said at the moment was a good thing. He chuckled with the aura of a business tycoon. You have to be weak enough for those old men with bad intentions to show their true colors. Cunning, really cunning. I said this cooperation cannot be accepted. Not only I am a target, I am also being used as a straw bag. He continued, besides, by lying down, you have eliminated the one thing I wanted to eliminate the most. Who? David. What's wrong with him? I found the best legal team and sued him for 30 years. I gasped, mutilating siblings. He said, I wouldn't do that to you. and he deserved it. When he said this, the gleam in his eyes was like a cheetah. He asked me, "Don't you think it's strange, David, that he was clearly dead, but he came back to life again?" In fact, it was the old man's decision to send him away that year. David killed someone that year, so the old man quickly sent him abroad and faked his death to cover up the truth. But he already had 2 lives on his hands. It turns out that Christopher has a cover-up in his heart that he is unwilling to tolerate. The old man had many wives when he was young, David and Christopher, but his mother was not the same one. He is too patriarchal. If it's a boy, he will treat her as a treasure; if it's a girl, he will let her do whatever she wants. Christopher has another girl with the same father and mother. That was his most beloved sister whom he spent every day with. My younger sister had a stray cat at that time, and she ran under the car to take the cat home. Just at that moment, he was run over by David's sports car. The little girl's brain burst out, leaving David with psychological trauma and Christopher with excruciating pain. What Christopher was most dissatisfied with was that David had never even been scolded. The old man didn't even frown when his daughter was run over. With someone to protect you, you will feel safe and secure. From then on, David began to bully others by taking advantage of his power. The year he was sent abroad, someone provoked him at school, and he, in a fit of rage, beat the person to death. The other family was determined to make David go to jail and would not settle no matter how much money was offered. The old man resorted to this desperate measure, sending David abroad and then faking his own death to avoid any accountability. This second cover-up was the trigger in Christopher's heart. After witnessing the whole process, Christopher became even more determined to make these 2 people pay the price. Christopher hates not only the old man, but also David, who has vested interests. I don't know how the old man died, but Christopher's mysterious smile was a little eerie. The target of this so-called business war was David from the very beginning. As for the other old shareholders, he just salvaged them and sent them away. Everything that happened was beyond his expectations, but it was exactly what he wanted. Now, David is in jail and the old stubborn people have been almost cleaned up. The old man didn't touch the 40% that I was given by the old man, and he even made the assets appreciate in value. Currently, the discounted market value of those assets is nearly $2 billion. When he was leaving, he said someone wanted to see me. Why, it's not her. Are you disappointed? Ava walked in with a smile. I'm not disappointed, I'm relieved. She sat in front of the bed and peeled an orange for me. I asked her, "What are you wearing? Doesn't it look good?" She asked. "It's not that it's ugly, it just looks very businesslike." She said, "This is the outfit of a micro-business expert. Now, my company is about to go public." I congratulated her. She suddenly burst into tears. I asked, "Why are you crying?" She wiped away her tears and said that she didn't cry, but her eyes became redder. She said, "You almost couldn't wake up." I smiled calmly. "Isn't it still awake? You woke up the latest among the 4 of us." I suddenly remembered something and asked Ava, "What did you say to Sophia at that time?" I always feel like that was the beginning of something different. She replied, "Just tell a person what she wants." I asked her whether she wanted money or your love. Between the 2, Sophia chose money. She said that her love is the least valuable, and money is the least illusory thing that can be held in one's hands. Ava, so, I showed her a way to live a worry-free life for the rest of her life, by making her Christopher's lover. I was a little surprised and didn't understand how Christopher could accept her, a woman whom his brother hated the most. Ava continued, "It's simple. Christopher doesn't want a waste of beauty. As long as she's useful to him, that's enough." So, Sophia became a pawn. I blurted out, "So this car accident was a premeditated murder caused by you?" "No way." She said hurriedly, "Who would have thought he was so crazy? An old shirt broke his defense and he took us all down." But, Ava said, "She probably wasn't lying when she said she loved you. A few seconds before the accident, I saw she wanted to protect you, too. Subconscious actions don't lie. She was badly injured protecting you, so she only woke up 3 days earlier than you. Subconscious actions don't lie. The love I once longed for so much, now that I finally see it, I can actually face it calmly. There is no point in proving whether she loves me or not now." I remembered and asked, "Didn't you protect me too?" "Yes." She said frankly, "Damn head, didn't I confess to you before I lost consciousness?" It turns out that the sentence that was not heard by the right ear is here. The closest Sophia and I ever got was on our wedding day. I later found out that she didn't have a so-called white moonlight. If you say that she loves money in general more than loving a specific person, If, from that day on, I had told her directly that I had inherited a large sum of money. Maybe she can pretend to love me all her life for money. I can also be kept in the dark until death and love her all my life. If a lie can be told for a lifetime, then it is no longer a lie. Her love, which I once longed for so much, turned out to be so close at hand. On the day she was discharged from the hospital, she came to see me. A long and scary scar was left on her face. When she was trying to protect me, a piece of steel sheet poked into her cheek before she could touch me. When she saw me, she forced a bitter smile. But it was the first time that when I saw her sad, I didn't feel heartbroken, but just regretful. She said to me, "I never thought that you would stop loving me, Michael. Do you really not want me this time? Don't ask if you want it or not, Sophia. You are a person, not an object. Then, do you still have a chance to love me? This time I really know I was wrong. This time you are still willing." I interrupted her and said, "No." She cried bitterly, regardless of her image, and this time she showed off a new trump card. She pulled my hand and asked me to touch the scar on her face. "Look, I no longer have a pretty face because of you, you can't stop loving me." She became more and more excited, her words breaking down. "You can't stop loving me, Michael. How could you not love me? Michael, you can understand me. I had a hard childhood. I can only move towards higher goals step by step. I have no choice." I pulled my hand back and said, "Sophia, you never have no choice. You always have a choice." She hurried to hold my hand again. Another person took my arm. Ava pushed her shoulder and said, "Boss doesn't accept any physical contact without his consent. And I also don't accept my boyfriend being held by another woman's hand and touched on the face. Sister, have some self-respect." Sophia was stunned. Ava continued, "As for your face, I can take you to my company for reimbursement, and I will do my best to restore it for you." Sophia looked at me in disbelief, as if waiting for me to do justice for her and speak for her. But I held Ava's wrist tightly and gave her a gentle smile. She was silent for a while, then suddenly started to laugh and cry, and said to me, "In fact, you are the only person I have ever loved in my life. You are the only person who makes me feel compassion, but my love for you is only distant. Compared to you, I have always loved myself the most. The way I love myself is too despicable, so this is all my own fault." As soon as the words fell, someone walked out of the crowd. Finally she left. "I brought this upon myself, I brought this upon myself, I belittled myself, it's all my own fault." She walked towards the hospital. Ava asked me, "Why don't we get her to see a psychiatrist? She looks like she has mental problems." I said, "Forget it. She has nothing to do with us from now on." "Real? Real." I turned around and the sun was high in the sky. I watched her walk step by step into the shadow of the building, her thin figure looking like it would fall to the ground if the wind blew. Ava and I divided with her in the sun. From now on, we are no longer people of the same world. I suddenly recalled the moment when my heart was moved for the first time. The ants who gathered in the compound to bask in the sun teased Sophia. I pointed at the children in the compound and asked Sophia who she wanted to be with in the future. Sophia ran over and grabbed my arm and sleeve and wouldn't let go. She looked at me with her sharp eyes, her breath sprayed on my cheek, and said to me, "I want to be with you when I grow up, is that okay with you?" The girl's rosy cheeks are so attractive, and her love spreads like wildfire. But now we are all different.